Hey everybody, I'm Tarl with Fixated Real Estate. Look at this house. When you first see a house like this, are you excited to be able to purchase this house, analyze it, jump into it, buy it, fix it, all that great stuff? Or are you more nervous about what the heck? There's so many problems with this property. There's so many things wrong with it. How does somebody even live there? There's no way in heck I'd buy a property like that. Which camp do you fit in? Are you the person that's excited about it, or are you the person running away from it? This business today has so many factors when it comes to flipping houses, doing the BRRRR, buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat, investing as a landlord. Doesn't really matter. There's so many factors that can make you analyze risk into a deal. This whole business is about mitigating risk. And I'm going to go over with you guys some of the major red flags that we see when we analyze our deals before we go to purchase them. And this is the major difference between professionals and amateurs in this business. So if you want to level up your game, this is the stuff that you need to pay attention to. Some of the red flags that we see on our projects that'll make us walk away from the deal are easy, obvious ones, and some of them are a little bit more subtle and hidden ones. And I'm going to show you guys those tips and tricks, and we're going to go over them right now. All right, guys, so we could do an entire series. We could do a ton of videos in regards to analyzing risk in deals. This business is all about mitigating risk. Most of us want to make as much money as possible when we're investing in real estate, but at the same time, we don't want to lose money in real estate. So when you talk to professionals out there and people that have been doing this business for years, you're going to find that they all focus on mitigating the risk. And how you mitigate risk is by doing great due diligence on your deals before you buy them. One of the biggest issues in this business that can totally kill you is when you start buying deals based on emotion, excitement, hubris, whatever it might be. You must have objective ways that you analyze and mitigate risks on each deal, and that comes through thorough due diligence. Everybody does it a different way. I'm not going to show you every step of it because, like I said, there's so many steps that you can get into it with all sorts of nitty-gritties depending on asset classes and so forth. And we're just going to go into single family on this one because that's what I specialize in. And I'm going to show you some of the major red flags that we look at when we analyze any deal in our due diligence so that you can use those for your business as well to either make you excited about a deal or run away from a deal. All right, so let's jump back into that property that I showed at the beginning of this video. So when you see this house, right, this is an obviously messed up property right when you first walk into it, or right when you first pull up into it. You see that there's a lot of factors on it that are issues. Right away, if you could pick out a few, I'll pick them out for you, right? You have the roof. The roof is obviously older, right? You have a chimney of some sort in there. The siding, you can't tell based on the picture, but this picture of the siding, some of you guys might already know what it is when you're looking at it, but this is actually asbestos siding. Now, is that good? Maybe. Is that bad? Could be, right? But those are factors you got to look at. If this property needs to be completely brand new and fixed up and dazzling, you're probably going to have to remove that asbestos siding. But at the same time, you remove asbestos siding, you have to do a lot of asbestos abatement, and that costs a lot of money. So that's just something to consider. But just on a side note, because I'm going on a tangent, asbestos siding is not always bad, especially if it's in good condition. The windows are messed up. You have these old stuff. The roof, the gutters are gone, right? This is all old school stuff everywhere. If you're really special, then you also recognize that this is a plumbing vent and it's galvanized, right? The landscaping's no good. There's a lot of factors here on this property that says right away, this project has a lot of issues. Now, what if you were given this deal from a wholesaler or from a realtor, or you're driving up on a property that you've set up an appointment with, and this is the project that you're pulling up on? Some of you guys might pull up on this project and go like, oh yeah, this is going to be awesome. This is definitely a deal. I'm going to flip the heck out of this property. It's going to be so cool. And some of you guys might be going like, heck no, too much of a project already. Now, how do you know which camp you're in? And I can tell you right now, if you're just going by the numbers are everything, and it's going to tell you what camp you're in right away. If this project here, somebody said, hey, it's going to be a light cosmetic fixer, and it's $20,000 totally to fix up the entire property, and you pull up on a project like this, you don't even need to get out of the car or see the inside of the house at all. You already know this project is going to cost you more than $20,000. And if that's the rehab budget on this project, you could probably walk away right away. But what if they told you the project rehab budget is $100 grand or $125 grand to be able to do the whole thing? That's a huge budget. You can get a lot done for that. Maybe then you're going to investigate it further. Now, why do I show you that? Why do I even go over that? Because one of the things that we're going to go over on this video is how you can detect major issues, major red flags, and plug it into your rehab budget, for your own rehab budget for what you're doing, so that you can start mitigating your risks immediately and see if a property is even worth your time, to where you're either going to dig into it more or just walk away and not even waste your time further. There's so many investors out there, or up and coming investors out there, that spend hours and hours and hours of their life doing nothing but due diligence on deals that will never make sense ever. So I want to tell you to stop that right now. And hopefully you can use some of this video to help you say no to properties sooner, instead of trying to like dig into little deals that don't make any sense whatsoever and you're probably going to lose money on, especially in today's market. So what are we talking about here? Let's get into the basics here. I'm going to really dive into one specific area for red flags that is the easiest to digest with pictures, and that's going to be the rehab analyst component of it. Now, everybody's budget's different, everybody's costs are different, but there's major red flags in every rehab that are going to be bigger costs than others. So let's talk about a very simple equation called max offer price, MOP, max offer price. Max offer price is basically what's your maximum price you can offer on a project to have it make sense to you as a deal. Now, everybody measures what a deal is slightly differently, but at the end of the day, we all have to come up with a max offer price. And the equation is dumbed down basically for you right now, just for me, because there's so many of them out there, is after repair value, ARV, minus whatever profit you want to make on the deal, minus any rehab costs that you need to put into it, construction, maintenance, whatever it might be, and then minus any expenses that you have to be able to do the deal. And that's your closing costs, your selling costs, and including all your holding costs, maybe your financials charges. So it's kind of bundled in there. That's a big one, right? So you got after repair value minus your profit that you want to make, minus your rehab expenses, minus all your other expenses such as holding, utilities, whatever, closing costs, selling costs, blah, 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 blah. There's lots of profit and loss spreadsheets out there, P&Ls, and also on BiggerPockets.com, there's an entire entire formulas, spreadsheets, whatever, right? Calculators, that's the word, that you can go into on BiggerPockets.com and check out for yourself. That'll help you calculate all this stuff if you're still new to the business. Now, how you come up with your after repair value, how you come up with your actual purchase price or all your holding costs is going to be dependent on your market and who you're working with. So let's focus on the rehab though. The rehab is a big one, because if you just sit there and you come up to this property that I showed you guys earlier and somebody told you it's $20,000, right? And you show up right away and you know that there's no way you're getting this job done for less than $100,000. You just know right away you could walk away from it, or you have to really negotiate the purchase price. All right, so if we're looking at the rehab component, you're going to have to figure out a budget for that. And you can do this in two ways. You can figure out the ARV, purchase price, all that great stuff that you're looking for. And then whatever's left over is going to be your rehab budget. You can just work that equation to figure out your max rehab that you can have. Once you have that, you can start looking at a deal and put these red flags I'm going to show you to see if you can actually make this actually work for you. So let's go over a few of these big red flags. First, we break it into two sections, exterior and interior. When we roll up on a project, there's some big exterior red flags that we're looking for right away as soon as we roll up into a project, or through pictures if we're analyzing this deal on our laptops. So you already saw that one project, so let's go to this next one. So if you roll up on this project here, and as soon as you show up, what's the first thing that pops in your head that is definitely wrong? And it's a big cost. These are big ticket costs that we're going through quickly. This one right here obviously is the roof. The roof is a lawn. It almost has more grass than the actual lawn itself. Some other things, there's aluminum windows. The siding looks really good. The garage door is a little bit old. You can see that on the left, right? But for the most part, you have big ticket item number one, which is your roof. And as well as your number two big ticket item, you could tell that the windows are aluminum. And if you're trying to sell this at a high ARV, you need to actually get some new windows in there and double pane vinyl those things. So that's an easy one. So you could tell right away something's wrong with this. So if we're doing this property and we're looking at it and analyzing it, and we have a small budget, these are big issues that are going to cost a lot of money that might make us walk away right away, or might make us come back and start negotiating with the seller. Let's look at this one. So we're still on the exterior of the property. Now, if you're looking at this photo, you can see that there's a few things maybe potentially wrong with it right away. You could tell it's probably a little bit older house because it's got a little bit older school craftsman type siding on it. The railings, whatever, those are kind of cheap. The steps don't look so good. Okay, the windows are wood windows. That's definitely a sign. And also over here, you might not be able to tell, but that's an exterior panel, and that's kind of a big looking, old looking one. So there might be something we need to check out there. But that's not the major hidden issue I want you guys to look at. So we talked about roof, we talked about windows, but another thing you got to look at from an exterior standpoint is also your foundation. Now, the foundation is another huge red flag that's going to cost you a ton of money if there's an issue with it. Now, you can find out more about the foundation by walking the exterior, but you can also find out a lot about it if you can get in the interior, the crawl space, the basements and stuff. But if you roll up on this property and you have a small budget and you see this here, this is a red flag. Why is it a red flag? First, if you can look at the siding seems straight, but the foundation's not. It is sloping at an angle. You can see there's a crack here at one point. It's broken off. It's broken off here. And this whole portion of the foundation is definitely sinking and down a few more inches. You can actually see whatever that's called. I can't remember. The rim joist, right? The rim joist is right here, this little piece there. You can see that sticking out, right? Because this slab, this part of the foundation, which is not slab, sorry, it's a full foundation wall, has actually sunken down, right? So that's going to make us want to look into that a little bit further. Maybe get a professional look at it. It's definitely going to be a rehab cost and a factor. There's probably some floor sinkage on that side. As soon as you walk into the house, it's probably sloping on that part of the portion of the house. But that's going to be a red flag that we're going to want to dive into right away. That might make this deal just die before we even go in. You're looking for things that are out of normal, right? That aren't normal. What's another one? Well, this one's kind of obvious. Major trash outs. Now, when you roll up on a project like this and you see all this trash, all this dump, you got to ask yourself a few questions. You have major landscaping. That's going to cost a lot. These are blackberry bushes. It sucks. They're probably going to grow back even if you cut them out. All this other dumpage here. What else has been dumped on this property? Has this been an illegal dump site, right? Is there a contaminated material in there, right? How much is it going to cost to get rid of this? If it looks this bad on the outside, is it going to look that bad on the inside? This might be a gold mine of a property because you're going to get it at such a sweet discount price, or it might be a big dumpster fire of your money because it might cost you too much to start fixing things. Who knows what's underneath this stuff? Those are big things that you're going to look at. So you're looking at the exterior. You got the roof, you got the windows, you got the foundation, you got siding, right? Which we haven't gone over yet. And you also have now big trash out landscape issues. This one's kind of a fun one. Who can guess how many tires are in this shop? Now, these tires, I don't have the photo for you because I want to do it justice, but these tires are an example of a big trash out. This entire project, we actually, believe it or not, we didn't walk away from this one. We bought this house. But this is a huge shop that's in the back of this project. And this was a massive trash out. Can you guess how many tires we found on this property? 403 tires were found on this property. Now, how do I know that we have exactly 403 tires that were found on this property? Because tires aren't cheap to get rid of. So we had to stack them all up, and then somebody had to come out and take them all, and they charge you per tire to dump these things. They ain't cheap, right? So that's why we know they're 403, because we got an invoice for 403 tires. So those hidden factors can definitely be a red flag on a big trash out and cost you a little bit of money. Now, I want to change things up with you guys a little bit. When it comes to exterior and you're looking for exterior issues, we talked about your foundation, we talked about your roof, we talked about siding, we talked about windows, right? We talked about heavy trash out, landscaping. Those are all things you can see very quickly as soon as you walk into a property. Now, I'm going to show you something that's a little bit more subtle here that you can also be looking at. That's another major red flag that we look at when we analyze our deals. Looking at this photo here, can you guess what it is? I'll give you a second. Okay, that's enough time because it's awkward on a video. Is it the paint? No. Siding looks pretty good. Windows, yeah, they're probably a little messed up. They look like they're old vinyl windows, but who knows? It might be good. A lot of you guys probably guessed it was this deck here, for sure. Like this is a cantilevered little Juliet deck that's up there, whatever it's called. Yeah, that was kind of an issue. We fixed it, right? No big deal. Believe it or not, we bought this project. But that's not the major red flag that popped up. The major red flag is this right here. This is an electrical mass. This is an overhead electrical mass that is coming into the house. Now, why is that an issue? Well, let's follow the cable. All the way here. Wait a second. The entire electrical mast cable that's supposed to be connected to the transformers out on the street for this property is coiled up on the deck. Now, what would make basically the city to not just to disconnect the power to the meter here, because a lot of times they just pop the meter off, which is something to watch out for. If you go to a property and you see there's no meter on the property for electricity, there's an issue there, right? But second thing, what would make the city go so far that they wouldn't just pop the meter out, which they did on this one. They also fully disconnected the power from the actual utility lines on the project. There's only a couple reasons. One could be that they're doing rehab on the project and the city wants them to put a new mast, right? It's a disconnect. Yes, that could be the thing, but trust me, this project was not getting rehabbed, right? Two, which is probably the real reason, which it was, is that these people originally had their meter popped, they weren't paying their utilities, and so they jumped the meter, right? Which you can do that. Really savvy people, right? Let's just say that, can jump the meter and get power by skipping the meter. And so if you do that, you get caught. Well, the utility company comes in and completely disconnects you from the transformer and the entire utility lines. So that way you can't jump the meter and you get zero power. What does that mean to us as investors analyzing the deal? There's going to be major utility issues on this. There's probably a huge utility bill on this project. And in addition, it's going to cost us a bunch of money to not only get the power back on, but also get the power connected to this project and probably pay all the fees and have inspections and have permits. That's going to be a cost that we're going to want to negotiate into the deal, or we're going to have to eat that. If you've done projects and you haven't analyzed your utilities, which is a red flag, on the project, you're going to get stuck with utility liens if you're not careful. You can use those utility liens to get them closed out prior to purchase and make the seller pay for them, because they should, unless that's part of the deal that you're trying to make. Okay, so there's really not a whole lot more on the exterior that can be like red flags, big ticket things. Roof, windows, siding, foundation that you can see on the exterior, because a lot of times the foundation you're going to see on the interior or feel it on the interior. Trash out, right? Dump site, all that stuff. Those are all big tickets that are big costs potentially for your projects that can make you walk away right away, and would make us walk away if we knew we didn't have a big budget for a rehab, not even worth going into the house. Or you negotiate. Well, what's something a little bit more subtle that you can see on that outside, the book doesn't, what is it, that you can't judge a book by its cover, right? So let's look at this project here. So this project, this house looks nice, right? You roll up into this project here, you're like, oh, wow, cool. The landscaping's a little overgrown. There's some trash out there. No big deal, right? But for the most part, this looks like a nice, clean little house. And this, okay, maybe we're not going to be able to negotiate too much on this one because the house looks clean already. It's probably not really lived in. Who knows? Because they're not taking care of it. Or maybe they're in a desperate situation. Maybe we can negotiate something. Who knows, right? Let's find out. Let's go inside. This is the exact same house. This is what was inside the house. So don't judge a book by its cover. You might be a little surprised on the interior. Now, why do I show you this? You have to get inside these houses. The only time you can't get in these houses is maybe if you're buying them at auction, but at least like get somebody to drive up the project and look in the windows or something, depending on what state you're in and blah, blah, blah. There's laws. But anyways, the jumping in there though, like you need to go look at these, because if you bought this house from the outside only and you walked onto the inside and this is what you found, you're going to have a rude awakening. So there was a fire obviously on this project. The house was, one half of the house was pretty okay. The other half of the house looked like this. And so what happened? Fire, rafter damage, all that great stuff, yada, yada, yada. Now I'm showing you this one here just because there's definitely things you're going to find on the interior, which we're going to transition to here in a second for what some of the red flags in here. This is obvious a huge red flag when you walk into a project and you have a lot of fire damage everywhere. And there's a lot of factors to pay attention to on a fire damaged house. I'm not going to get into them in this video. Just be aware that it is different to rehab a fire damaged house. So I just because I'm cool and I want to show you guys how cool I am, we did buy that house, right? We actually got it at, of course, a screaming deal. And we fixed it all up, fully permitted it, listed it on the market, sold nicely. We bought this while the market was dipping, right? So this is a house that we actually worked on and just finished up. And it looks really, really nice. This is the same kitchen that was all fire damaged and burnt up. And because we're studs, we made it awesome. So I'm only showing you that because like you could still, even though you might see a house that interior is totally messed up, fire damage, it still might be a deal, but you use those things to be able to negotiate a better deal. And you better make sure your pricing for your rehabs correct and you're analyzing your ARV correctly, which there's tons of videos out there for that. A great book, if you're having trouble figuring out how to do rehab, is the book on estimating rehab costs by Jay Scott. You can buy that on the BiggerPockets website or on Amazon or any other places that you buy books, I guess, right? So we've gone over a lot of detail on the exterior of these properties, and there's so much more we could dive into. In fact, we're going to jump into the interior of these projects, but we're going to do that in part 2 of this video. Part 2 is going to be all about the interior. We're going to go in just as much detail as we did on the exterior. In the meantime, you can find me on Instagram at Tarl Yarber. Make sure you comment, like, subscribe these videos, and I'll see you at part 2 of this. It's going to be out on the BiggerPockets YouTube channel, part 2, Interior Red Flags, and I'll see you in that video.